At the age of 53, he thought the desire was over. The silence in the room, the emotional withdrawal, and the loss of confidence seemed irreversible signs of time. But everything changed when he decided to take the first step, to move. In this intimate, deep, and real account, learn the story of a man who regained his libido, self-esteem, and marriage. Not with medication, but with movement. Find out how training can reactivate much more than the body. It can rekindle the desire to live. Subscribe to the channel to receive more real stories about longevity, vitality, and sexuality after 50. I never thought I'd say it out loud, but there came a point when I didn't recognize myself anymore. At the age of 53, the mirror seemed to reflect a stranger. The man I saw there was not the same one who lived years of passion, nor the affectionate father, nor the secure husband I once was. It was as if some part of me had faded little by little without me noticing. First it was fatigue, then apathy. Finally, the silence between me and my wife. A silence that started in the look, then spread to the room, and finally took the whole house. It was not a lack of love. It was worse. It was a lack of myself. I was absent, inside the body but far from life. I started to avoid touching. I didn't want to disappoint, and every attempt at intimacy became another painful reminder of how I had lost myself. The libido that once drove me now seemed like a distant echo. I tried to pretend that it was normal, that it was age, that time takes its toll. But inside, something screamed. It was on any given afternoon, one of those that we don't even remember the date, that everything started to change. My daughter came to visit me. She hugged me tightly, looked me in the eyes and said, "Dad, are you still in there?" I smiled, not talking, but that phrase kept hammering. And when she left, I found a paper that she had left on the table. A simple brochure saying, "Free functional training for men over 50. Reactivate your vitality." I threw it in the trash. That night, lying next to my wife, who was already sleeping with her back to me, as so many times, I realized that I no longer felt ashamed. I felt mourning myself, of the skin that did not react, of the desire that would not return, of the touch that now seemed formal. The next morning, I took the paper out of the trash. It was crumpled, but legible. I called. "Is there still a vacancy?" The next day, I arrived at the sports center with short breath and wounded pride. There were other men there, each one with their own story, none with the face of an athlete, none wanting to compete. But everyone seemed to be looking for the same thing I had, a sign that there was still time. The first day was humiliating. My knees creaked, my heart felt like it wanted to run away from my chest, and my arms trembled from exercises that, years ago, I had done with a child on my shoulders. But there was something about that effort that ignited a spark. One phrase echoed in my mind: "This is not about muscles, it's about coming home." 2 weeks later, I realized that my posture had changed. 3 weeks later, my energy during the day was different. A month later, my wife looked at me differently. And on one of those nights, after months of sleeping apart, I touched her hand firmly. She looked at me surprised, and I just said, "I'm coming back." It didn't happen all at once, but in that touch, something has been rekindled, and I understood that my sexuality had not died. She was just asleep under layers of sedentary lifestyle, tiredness, guilt, and conformism. The coach always said, "The body does not forget. He just needs to be reminded of what he is capable of." And he was right. With the training came the pulsing blood. With the sweat came clarity. With the movements came presence. And with that, the desire returned. Not the superficial desire, but the desire to live with intensity, the desire to touch, to look, to surrender without fear. I started studying. I discovered that physical exercise stimulates testosterone production, improves circulation, increases dopamine and serotonin levels, things that I used to think that only a pill solved. But what no one told me is that, along with the body, comes the soul. That when blood flows again, love flows with it. Self-confidence, curiosity, courage. My wife noticed. We started walking together. Later, she wanted to try it too. Today, we train twice a week. We are not a perfect couple, but we are an awakened couple. We are not 20 years old, and we don't want to. But we have something that many young people have not even discovered yet. The joy of touching themselves with presence. The lightness of laughing after a kiss. The certainty that pleasure, when it comes from connection, has no expiration date. Training saved my health, but more than that, training saved my sex life. And deep down, it saved my marriage. Because love, it does not end with time. But time can bury desire if we stop moving. And I moved. And that's why today, I came back. Do you know what surprised me the most when I started training? It wasn't the sweat, nor the pain in the first few days. Not even the muscles that, little by little, have reappeared where before there was only flaccidity. What surprised me the most? It was the return of the gaze, my look in the mirror, and my wife's gaze on me. I didn't realize how much I had disappeared. Gradually, I became invisible. For her, for me, to the world. But when I started moving, something happened on my face. His eyes gained sparkle. The skin has changed, and my presence is no longer a static body in the house, and has become a living energy in the environment. The training was not only physical, it was identity under reconstruction. I started slowly. Functional exercises, with your own body weight, squats, arm rest, stretches, 30 minutes a day, no expensive appliances, no gym. But the most powerful thing was not the movement itself. That's what he gave me back. The feeling of control. Before, I thought that the end of my libido was inevitable. A natural decline, such as hair color or wrinkles that arrive without asking permission. But it wasn't quite like that. I discovered that a sedentary lifestyle has a brutal price. It affects the hormonal system, vascularization, sleep, mood, everything that builds desire. When I started to move, even with simple movements, the body responded, as if he had been waiting for years for me to wake him up. And I felt it. The desire returned, the erection returned, and along with it, confidence. I went to research. I've seen that many men after 50 experience mild or moderate hormonal drops. But what really destroys libido isn't age, it's disuse. The male body, even mature, is still capable of producing testosterone, but it needs stimulation. No effort, no circulation, no movement. Everything is fading away. And you know what's crueler? It's just that no one talks about it with us. We accept it in silence, thinking that it is just part of getting older. But it is not. It is physiological abandonment. It's a lack of information. Today I know, climbing stairs, walking fast, stretching, strengthening. These things produce more than muscle. They produce self-perception. My wife commented that my smell changed, my touch changed. My voice was firmer. She couldn't explain it. But I knew what it was. It was the return of the man she had known, but not the same. A better one. Because now I didn't want to taste anything. I just wanted to feel it again. Feel the heat, pleasure, the touch of the skin that shivers, not by technique, but by presence. And that's when our intimacy blossomed again. No pressure, no charge. Gradually, we rediscovered each other's bodies. And more than that, we rediscovered laughter, eye to eye, the conversation afterwards. Our room is no longer a space of silence and has become a space of curiosity, of reunion. And it all started with a simple squat. Today, I say this without shame. Training is not just about health. It's about desire, about wanting to be alive, about deserving pleasure, about understanding that the body is a bridge and not an end. And if there's something I've learned in the last few months, it's that after 50, it's not the end of anything. It's the beginning of a new phase, where you can experience the best of pleasure with awareness, surrender, and freedom. But it needs to move. You need to decide. You need to look in the mirror and say, I'm still here. And when you say it truthfully, the body responds. Today, when I look back, I see that the worst part of it all wasn't the loss of libido. It was the silence in which she died. Nobody talks to the mature man about it. No one prepares us for the emptiness that can arise when desire begins to fail, when the body no longer reacts as before, when the woman sleeping next to him seems more distant every night, or worse, when you start to walk away from it, afraid of failing once again. It is a silent exile. We smile in the photos, go to birthdays, pay the bills, but inside, he is out of his mind. And do you know what the first step is to get out of it? Recognize. Look in the mirror and say, yes, something is wrong, but I can react. That's what I did, and that's why everything changed. The training gave me strength. Yes, but the main thing was not physical strength. It was the strength to desire me again, because that's what no one tells you. Sexuality after 50 doesn't start with the other. It starts with you. It starts in the blood that runs when you finish a hike, in the sweat that drips when you challenge yourself to do one more repetition, in the silent pride of getting out of bed with energy, in the vitality that comes, not from magic formulas, but from small habits repeated with consistency. With 30 minutes a day, I changed my story. I regained the desire. I regained my self-esteem. I got my wife back. And above all, I recovered myself. Today, our relationship is different. Not because we are young again, but because we learn to be intimate with maturity. And this intimacy is deeper, freer, more true. I don't have the same body as I did 20 years ago, but I have something that many young people are still looking for: presence, conscience, true warmth. And if you're listening to it right now, and you feel like something in you has faded away, no, the ember is still there. It just needs movement, air, decision. Don't expect libido to come alone. She needs you. She needs her body in action, of your heart beating hard, from your brain receiving oxygen, of his blood saying, we are alive. Training gave me that back. The pulse, living skin, spontaneous desire, and the courage to play again, with intention, with truth, with will. If you're over 50, 60, or even older, it's never too late to rekindle what you thought was lost. Because pleasure, it has no expiration date. But the decision to get it back, there's a right time. It's now.